Hello and welcome to the Syndicated Vomit Podcast, an extension of the Vomit series of podcasts. I'm your host, Mac Taylor. Guys, we're going to be talking today. We're going to conclude the Green with Evil storyline and talk about episodes 22, 23, and 24 as well. So the post-Green with Evil storyline we'll also be doing as well as we keep trekking through Season 1 of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers and continuing down our motherfucking journey of all of Power Rangers, which is, it's a tall order, especially if you're doing 4 episodes at a time. It's a lot of podcasts to get through Power Rangers, okay? But, I'm happy to be doing this. This is a show near and dear to my heart. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and let's continue into this motherfucking journey with Green with Evil Part 5, Breaking the Spell. So we start out, Rita is celebrating her victory over the Rangers, and this is the closest she's come to victory. She's defeated the Zords, defeated the Rangers multiple times. At this point, Rita is a legitimate threat. And things are not looking good for our color-clad heroes. The Rangers, they look for Tommy because now they know his identity. So they're trying to find him and figure out how to break this spell that Rita has over him. Because at the end of the day, Tommy is not a villain. He's just being controlled through Rita Repulsa. So Bulk and Skull, there's this fun scene. They're in Ernie's. And they're like, we helped the Power Rangers. We should be on TV too, because they are trying to spin it that while they were in that bus screaming and begging for their lives, they somehow scared Goldar, who is a giant, holding them in the palm of his hands. I don't know how they exactly planned to spin that into something, but this is classic Bulk and Skull, classic comedic relief character stuff. Even when they're in danger, they try to play it off like they're tough. Even though they're the least threatening bullies maybe in any show. But that's why we love them. They're hilarious. They're great. So Tommy, when they find, because Kim's like, hey, have you seen Tommy? And Ernie's like, oh, the new kid? He's over there. And he's on one of the exercise machines doing the slowest reps. He's just like, ooh, one. And he has the intense look on his face. So he's pissed off just working out. It's awesome. When they walked over there, I was like, what is this? Why is he going so incredibly slow on this machine? Because usually you're going to push out the rep. And he's just like, ooh, yeah, I got to do this super slow and fierce looking. I got to look fierce. I just imagine the director being like, yes, and you're mind controlled, and you're angry, and you're gruesomely fierce. It's an odd choice. So Kim's pleading him, Tommy, we know you're the Green Ranger, but you don't have to. The same thing Jason does, where you don't have to work for Rita. Join Zordon and the good guys. And he's like, well, Pink Ranger, soon you will fall to my Empress. So she's like, oh shit, he knows our identities too. Which, you confronted him about the Green Ranger stuff. Civilians probably wouldn't do that, right? So, clearly they would be Power Rangers anyway. It wouldn't take, I know Rita showed him who the Power Rangers were. He does know who they are. But the way she approached the situation, of course she's a Power Ranger because she has the knowledge too. So, it's like they're shocked. Oh, he knows our identities too? Well, fuck yeah, he does. I don't know. Sometimes the Rangers do really dumb shit, and this was kind of a dumb thing. So Rita wants to bring the Dragon Zord out, and the Dragon Zord is the coolest fucking Zord. So Tommy gets all the cool shit in early Power Rangers. He gets the Green Ranger costume, which is awesome. It's got the best design and the fucking gold shield and shit. He gets the coolest weaponry with the dragon dagger, which I have a replica of. That's how of a mark I am for the Green Ranger. And he gets the coolest Zord with the Dragon Zord, which basically looks like a mecha version of Space Godzilla. So it looks like Mecha Godzilla, but with the pointy shoulders. It's fucking awesome. And when he calls it with the flute, it comes out of the water. So it comes up out of the water and makes its way into the city like Godzilla does in the fucking movies. Like, it's so cool. So incredibly cool. I love it. So Tommy does his thing, plays the dragon dagger flute, which is awesome because it's not only a dagger, it's a fucking flute that calls a giant mecha dragon. That's amazing. Like, you can't say that's not amazing. You know, I know Power Ranger, people argue like, well, Power Rangers is for kids because it's fucking goofy. And it is goofy sometimes. But this shit right here, that's badass. You can't tell me that's not badass, right? Like, so, you know, there's arguments to be made why Power Rangers is cool. The Dragon Zord and Dragon Dagger are part of it. So Kim, tells the Rangers that he knows their identities, but again, that's a dumb thing that, of course, he would know. So they morph into action and go to fight Tommy and his new Dragon Zord. And the Dragon Zord not only is badass looking, but it has a drill tail. So its tail fucking drills through buildings and shit. Amazing. And it shoots missiles out of its fucking hands. It kind of works like Mechagodzilla does in the first movie, Godzilla against Mechagodzilla. Oh, actually, that's a different movie. Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, or whatever that one's called. The first one, from the Showa era. Where it has like fucking lasers out of its eyes and fucking shoots rockets and shit. It's kind of like the Dragon Zord does. I wonder when they were designing that for Zoo Ranger if Mechagodzilla was in mind, because there's a lot of similarities. But again, it looks like a Mecha Space Godzilla because of the pointy shoulders. So Rangers are in trouble, but they do. Zordon comes back. Alpha finally gets Zordon back, and so he resurrects the Ranger Zords out of the ground. Not entirely sure why that even happened in the first place. It looks cool though. So they come out of like the lava and shit. So here come the Zords. But the Dragon Zord fucks up the Tyrannozord for a minute. But then, another Godzilla comparison. The Tyrannozord does this. Godzilla does this thing, I believe, in Godzilla vs. Megalon. It's kind of goofy, where he's like propped up on his tail and does like a drop kick. Zooms across the field and drop kicks him. It looks goofy in that, but the fucking Tyrannozord does that. Like, it props itself up on its tail and does a drop kick. So I wonder again if that's another thing they got from Godzilla, because that's almost exactly like it happens in Godzilla vs. Megalon. But it looks cooler and makes more sense for a robot, because like a robot tail could be strong enough to prop it up. Doesn't make as much sense with Godzilla. But anyway, it's cool. He does that, drops the Dragon Zord. Then they turn into Megazord, and they just fucking throw Dragon Zord around like it's a WWE match. And then they get the Power Sword laying major damage to it. So they've defeated the Dragon Zord. And so Jason and Tommy hop out of their Zords, and they start fighting. It's the Dragon Dagger against the... he has the Dragon Dagger and the Sword of Darkness. And Jason has the Power Sword and his blaster. And I mean, it's fucking close. And it's awesome. This fight is well choreographed. It looks amazing. But Tommy gets disarmed. The Sword of Darkness vanishes, as does Tommy's Green Ranger suit. The spell is broken. Tommy's free, and he's like, what have I done? And Jason's like, you don't have to worry about what you did. You were under Rita's spell. Now you join us and fight with the Power Rangers. And he does. So now the Green Ranger becomes the 6th Ranger, and our first ever 6th Ranger on the Mighty Morphin team. 6 Rangers and Auxiliary Rangers are super common nowadays, but this was the first one, and arguably the best one. The most nostalgic one, right? Does have the coolest fucking sword ever. And I'll be doing ranking videos on my, actually doing ranking videos on this channel for Ranger colors, Ranger Zords, seasons, all that business after we're done with this. So even after we're done having hundreds of podcasts about Power Rangers, we're going to be making even more content about Power Rangers because I fucking love Power Rangers. So anyway, Tommy's now an official MMPR. Zordon, is back, and he's like, this is history in the making, where all the Power Rangers are back together, and they morph. And everyone shouts out their thing. Tommy shouts out Dragon Zord because he can't to say dragon or something. It doesn't flow. The words don't flow right. So he calls out Dragon Zord when he morphs. It's kind of odd, actually, that's because everyone else goes, Mastodon, Pterodactyl, Triceratops. They all have that multiple syllables. Dragon doesn't quite fit. Doesn't sound correct. So Dragon Zord it makes it fit the criteria, but it's odd sounding with everything else. No one says Tyrannosaurus Zord or Tyrannozord or Tricerazord. They don't do all that. They won't do that until Dino Charge. So that happens. They morph into action and do a roll call where they're like, 6 Rangers fighting together against Rita, kicking butt. And they do that and then go back to Zordon. So that was literally for show. And they show that the Dragon Zord combines with the Mastodon, Triceratops, and Sabertooth Zords to make the Mega Dragon Zord. And it looks badass because the tail comes off and becomes the drill tail becomes like a staff. It's amazing. But they do that and then just go back to the command center because they've already won. So that seemed a little weird. You couldn't wait till trouble came to do this. You had to do this just to show off, I guess. I don't know. In the context of a show, this is a strange choice, but it was cool just to see. So they go back. Tommy gets a communicator, and they all do that thing from old school shows where they go 1, 2, 3, yeah, and they all jump up and it freezes. They did that, and I was like, again, when we're talking about things why people go away from Power Rangers, this is one of them. This is kind of goofy. But again, we had so much badass shit in this episode, I wasn't even fazed by them doing a freeze jump. So that brings us in episode 22, The Trouble with Shell Shock. So it starts off with everybody's at the basketball court, and Squat and Babu. Squat does this thing where he shows up, and he's like, "Wow, the Rangers aren't even paying attention." And then he goes back to to Rita's palace, and then proceeds to do his thing. I'm like, why did you go there to see what they were doing? It doesn't make any sense. Why didn't you just do your thing in Rita's? They don't watch you all day. It was a strange thing. It seemed like they just wanted to fill some time. But the plot of this episode, and this is actually really unique, is that Squat and Babu are making their own monster while Rita's asleep to try to, save some face as henchmen. So it's kind of like their own little episode because we don't really see much of Rita or Goldar in this. It's mainly Squat and Babu and their monster. I thought that was really cool and pretty, like I said, makes this episode stand out a little bit, So they make a turtle with the traffic light, a cannon, a baseball bat and a ball, and a pirate hook. And they put it all in the cooker. So it's a turtle with a traffic light coming out of its back. And they call it Shell Shock. Kind of goofy, but compared to things like Chunky Chicken and Tickle Sneezer and Gnarly Gnome, I'll take Shell Shock. Even Squat's like, a traffic light? Why would we give a turtle a traffic light? And I was like, hey, he gets it. That is weird. So it's fun to see a character point out how goofy this is, right? A little bit of self-awareness, which is not something you see in early on Power Rangers. So they send the putties out. And Tommy had that thing that Trini had earlier where he does a kick and they just replay the footage 3 times instead of him just doing 3 kicks. Why do they do that? It doesn't look good. You can clearly tell it's the same footage 3 times. Why are we doing that? I don't understand why that's necessary, But nevertheless, that happens. And they do a lot of they're still playing basketball whilst fighting the putties. So it's like jump, kick a putty down, dunk a ball. A little goofy, but I like how they sometimes use this because the putty battles can be a little much because they're in just about every episode. And after the first episode, the putties aren't a threat. The Rangers just beat them up and then proceed to fight the monster of the week. So a lot of the times you have to do something different because, how many times can they fight a putty and it look interesting? So yeah, I like that they use the background. Like when they were at the dump site, they use that. They're in an alleyway, they use the trash cans and shit. They're at a basketball court, they use the basketballs. Yes, it's a little goofy, but it's a way to make it not so same old, right? So I appreciate it. And then a hot dog cart just comes out of nowhere. And I thought, that's going to be a villain in disguise, right? No, it's just a random hot dog cart that just came, right next to the basketball court. That's not a great place to put a hot dog cart. You'd think with all the balls flying around, your cart's going to get hit at some point, right? You kind of want to be at a more, back some park benches or something, at a more less active, I should say less sports happening in the area. It's an odd choice. But they go to get hot dogs, and Bulk and Skull come to get on everybody's nerves. And when they show up, Kim has a line. She goes, look, the circus is in town. And Skull goes, hey, Bulk, is the circus really in town? Fucking love their dynamic. But they do this kind of an odd choice. They're playing keep away with Kimberly, throwing her around. And then they end up just getting spun around and knocking into each other and knocking into the hot dog cart, which is now covering them with condiments. And they have to work off the damage. The guy's it's going to take you 2 weeks to make up for all those hot dogs. And I'm they got knocked into it. They really had to pay for it. I understand they were being dicks, which is why they got knocked into your cart. But it's a little weird that they now have to work off the damage that they didn't actually cause on their own fruition. But they're the comedic relief characters. We need them doing comedic relief things. So they sent Shell Shock out. And before they send him out, they're all right, when you get there, you're gonna use your red beam to freeze everybody. And he's and then you're gonna, and Squad's well, no, don't confuse him. So they're trying to teach this monster step by step how to do shit. So he gets there, he blows up a ball to get their attention. They morph in action. And he hits them with the green light, the go beam, and it makes Trini constantly run. So now Trini is just running, can't stop. That's what the go beam does. Then he pulls out his baseball bat and ball and starts lobbing balls at them. So he has an interesting arsenal of weaponry. It just looks goofy to see a traffic light sticking out of a turtle, right? So he's using that. Then he hits the red light and freezes everybody except for Jason. And Tommy's not here. Because Tommy left right before the hot dog thing. And the reason why Tommy, we'll be talking about, he does this a lot. He just kind of fucks off for part of the episode. And why that is because they don't have a lot of footage from Zoo Ranger of the Green Ranger. Because in Zoo Ranger, Barai dies. He's not in very many episodes. So they don't have a lot of footage to use of Barai. So they had to get creative and find reasons for Tommy not to be there. And then when he is there, they had to shoot around. Oh, shit, hit my mic. You had to shoot around, not seeing him, just using footage of the Dragon Zord, things like that. They had to, get creative so they didn't have to shoot a whole bunch of new footage. Because they keep Tommy around because Tommy becomes super popular with the fans. And we'll talk more about that later. But, they're trying to use the Green Ranger as much as they can. But at the same time, they don't have a lot of footage. So, like I said, a lot of the episodes, in this one, he just fucks off for most of it. So Jason's the only one not frozen or running. And then he pulls his cannon out and starts blasting cannon shots. And Babu and Squad are happy. They're man, our monster's really working. And Goldar, his voice went back to weird again. So I don't know if they shot this episode before the voice change, but he kind of went back to talking like this instead of talking like this. Yeah, and again, I'm bad at Goldar imitations, but he kind of just goes back to the stereotypical bad guy voice. And he's like, you guys are never going to put one over on me. Rita's going to tell you how dumb this is. And then Rita wakes up and is happy with their work. So Goldar is all jealous. And now Jason's the only ranger that isn't in some sort of predicament. And so Zordon sends Trini to the Mountain of Hope to get this flower. There's always like some weird remedy in a faraway place for shit that happens. So Trini, in her constant state of running, is going to get that. And at one point, the turtle is running around the city saying, come on out, you teenage mutants. Hint, hint, wink, wink. A turtle saying teenage mutants to ninja-like kids. We get the reference. Which is funny because, you know, it was called Mighty Morphin Power Rangers because they needed a four-word thing to sound because Ninja Turtles was popular at the time. So Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. So it's funny that they didn't make another Turtles reference with a turtle villain. It was fun. It was a fun thing they did. I enjoyed that. So Shell Shock's now large, tearing up the town. Jason calls his Zord. And he gets out, the turtle gets out the bat and the pirate hook to take on the Tyrannosaur. And Tommy's just hanging out. He's doing a little workout session with the bow staff. Just not even dealing with the situation. And Shell Shock is battering the Tyrannosaur. And the Saber-toothed Zord is sent to Trini. For some reason, it never really does anything. But she acts like it does. Like, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But she gets the flowers. And then finally, Tommy looks at his communicator and is like, oh shit, there's some stuff going down. I better get going. So he takes off. He morphs, calls his Dragon Zord. Now it's a Dragon Zord and Tyrannosaur tag teaming Shell Shock. And at one point he's like, Shell Shock's like, I got dirt in my eyes. But he manages to use the freeze ray. But the flowers are now taking effect, so now the ray doesn't work, and everybody's unfrozen or stopped running, in Trini's case. And the Zords finish off Shell Shock pretty easily. And so Shell Shock is defeated. Babu and Squat are then scolded again by Rita, so Goldar's happy he's still the number one henchman. And it cuts back to them in the basketball court. Zach's like always shit-talking when he's playing basketball. And he does like the same move that apparently it's a layup. It's very easy. So he beats Tommy and Jason with that. But then Billy ends up dunking on him. So Zach has to buy Billy and Tommy lunch. So either way, Tommy got out of it. He's like, the loser buys 2 lunches. So it's like, so no matter what, Tommy got out of buying lunch. So that brings us to episode 23, Itsy Bitsy Spider. So Billy and Trini are petitioning to save a town statue. So again, these kids are saints. And there's a legend that the statue protects from insects. They got like all these insects in the area. Talk about how they can help out and shit. Zach's afraid of spiders. Even though that's not going to be super prevalent in this episode, even though it kind of should. But so Zach doesn't like spiders. So Bulk then tosses a bunch of bugs on people. And what happens to Zach? A spider falls on him. And he's like petrified, like screaming. And Kim's like, you're going to get your comeuppance, Bulk. Which they kind of do. But again, there's not a whole lot of payoff in this episode, I will say. So Rita is like, we gotta steal that statue. So she sends the Putties and Babu and Squat to steal this town statue, which is a little bit of a weird flex. And Billy comes with a mouse. That is his like lab assistant, he calls it, but like he's totally doing experiments on that thing. But Bulk knocks the mouse to the floor, which goes into Skull's pants. And then there's some comedy there. In the meantime, Rita has made a spider monster, which should be a little more scary to Zack than it ends up being. So she makes a duplicate statue full of bugs, so when the people come to the statue, the giant spider will come out. Again, not really sure how that it was exactly supposed to work. It ends up working out like she wants it to, but it was a very slim chance that someone would come to that statue. It's kind of an odd plan in the long run. So Tommy and Zack are absent while everyone else is like getting the bugs that were like they needed to get some more bugs. So they're out doing that. But obviously Zack, afraid of spiders, can't be there. And Tommy has to fuck off every episode. So he's not there for stock footage reasons. And Billy also has this really that safari hat on, in which it makes sense if you're like on an adventure, but you're just getting bugs. You didn't really need to wear the hat. It's kind of an odd touch. And so the putties show up, and they use like bug nets, like to put around a putty's head and spin them around, all that business. Again, they got to use what they have to make the putty fights not as boring. Meanwhile, Zack's teaching a hip-hop keto class. It's basically just dance fighting with all these kids. But these butterflies show up and put the kids to sleep. And Zordon's like, Zack, you come and take care of this. And he's like, but these kids. And he's like, don't worry, I'll watch them. It's like, okay, even if someone comes to fuck with the kids, how are you going to save them, Zordon? Like, you're a head in a tube. Like, it's kind of a weird thing. Like, I'll watch the kids, you go. But it's like, you're not, what are you going to do? Maybe he'll send Tommy, who's just, fucking off this whole time. So Zack goes to the statue because he wants to get away from the bugs, but there's a drop! And so the giant spider comes out, and Zack's not really afraid of it. Like, this should be an opportunity, just like training in the Heights, where Zack is terrified, right? Where the monster comes out, and he almost can't move. He's petrified, and eventually he overcomes his fear and defeats the spider. That should be the arc, right? It's pretty simple. They lay it all out. But really, he just gets right into fighting it without hesitating. So he morphs, starts fighting the spider. And the spider's a decent design. It's about a spider, about as good as a person in a spider suit can get, I'd say. So he's blasting it, but Goldar arrives and just starts whooping Zack. So the gang finally gets word during their bug hunt about this shit that went down, which the putty should have been a decent indicator that shit was going to go down. So they morph into action, and they start getting spider-webbed, and Goldar's zapping them with his sword. So they're all tangled up in this spider stuff. Then Rita makes her monster grow. And we got a big spider. So everybody goes to the Zords, gets to the Megazord. And the spider shoots this very jizz-like cream, kind of gooey stuff. Again, very jizz-like. Which sticks the Megazord. So this is actually really interesting. The Zords separate. They go back to being individual Zords instead of the Megazord to get unstuck. And they use the Mastodon to freeze the spider, but the spider breaks free. And then, like, the Tyrannosaur goes to, like, jump at it, and the spider, like, puts its arm out, takes it. It's basically a spear. It does an edge type of spear with the arm out instead of, like, the full body spear. And then Tommy's, like, exercising again, this time with a sword. And Zordon's like, oh, hey, by the way, some shit's going down. You might want to get over here. And he's like, oh, okay. So he morphs, calls a Dragon Zord. The missiles are shooting at the spider. Spider lightning then fucks up Dragon Zord. So then the Dragon Zord combines with the other Zords for Mega Dragon Zord. And completely blows up, kills the spider. And so that, again, it should be Zack spearheading this fight, right? Because Zack's one of the only Rangers that hasn't had a real spotlight moment. So this should be his time to shine, overcoming his fear. And he doesn't do that. It ends up just being Tommy coming at the last second using the Mega Dragon Zord to fuck up the day. So it's a little anticlimactic, like I said. So the kids that fell asleep, that Zordon was, I guess, watching, wake up. And Zach just acts like nothing happens, continues the class, which, after you just wake up, you want to start a heavy workout. And the statue is back, and for some reason, City Council's like, oh yeah, and it's an historical monument now, which they didn't even get to really do most of the petition because all this other shit happened. So, again, things just kind of solved themselves without any real, thought. It just kind of happened. And then Zach gets pranked because Tommy's like, are you over your fear of spiders? And he's like, yeah. And then Tommy puts a rubber spider on him, and he starts freaking out. So he's not overcoming the fear, which I guess maybe that's why they didn't have him have his moment. But, everything was here. We had a spider monster, a clear phobia of his. He should have been the one to take it out. A little bit of a missed opportunity, in my opinion. And that brings us into the final episode we'll be talking about in today's podcast, episode 24, The Spitflower. So, Kim is making a float for the World Peace Parade. Again, these fucking kids have so many, when do they sleep? And Tommy's just kind of flirting with her, like, man, Kim, that's a really good thing you're doing. That's a great float. Take your pants off. He doesn't say that last part, but it's basically the vibe he's throwing out. He's being real cool about it. Cool, calm, and collected. 3 C's. Bulk and Skull arrive to be Bulk and Skull. And Bulk's allergic to the flowers, apparently, so he uses Skull's handkerchief around his neck to blow his nose. I thought that was kind of funny. Then the putties arrive and completely demolish the float build. So now Kim is depressed. And in the putty fight, Kim doesn't really do much. She's just trying to protect the float. Tommy looks great. He's dropping to the floor, sweep the leg. Real Cobra Kai moment. He's sweeping the leg. He's doing he only did 2 spin kicks. I was very proud of him. He's upped his arsenal. Did a lot of punch stuff in this one. He's wearing the green tank top, but this time with green plaid and a green backwards ball cap. So really upped his green. So the others arrive as the putties leave. Float's destroyed. Kim's all depressed. And she actually does a decent job, fake crying and stuff. She definitely improved as an actress as the show's gone on. And then Rita's like, flowers, eh? I'll make a flower monster. The Spitflower, who produces flowers that have teeth, which are basically just hand puppets. But they're blossoms with teeth that when they bite you, they absorb your energy. Actually, it's a pretty decent design, I will say. The Spitflower itself is kind of okay, but the touch of the blossoms sucking energy, that's really fucking cool. But meanwhile, the gang don't know about that, so they want to cheer Kimberly up. And Tommy's like, well, good luck with cheering her up. I gotta go. Because, again, he's got to fuck off for most of these episodes. And then right after he leaves, shit goes down, and they get sent to the exposition machine, Zordon, and they get told about the blossoms, and they morph into action. And as soon as they get there, they're swarmed by the blossoms, and their energy is getting sucked out of them, and the Spitflower turns into a giant Spitflower. And then Tommy is then notified after that shit goes down, morphs into action, frees the others from the blossoms, and they summon for the Jesus Christ, English. They get the Mega Dragon Zord, which the flowers just start draining the energy out of that. So they get called back to the command center, and they're like, yeah, we can't use Zords. Don't use Zords right now. Then we cut to Bulk and Skull, covered in flowers, falling over each other, screaming and stuff, trying to fight off the flowers. It's very goofy, very fun little moment there. Great physical comedy. So Zordon's like, all right, guys, you need to go out there and finish the Spitflower with your power weapons. But Tommy, you stay here in case shit goes wrong. So again, they're like, we don't have the footage, Tommy. You just stay put, look cool. We'll send the main team out to take care of this. So they combine the power weapons, and completely destroy the Spitflower. It was that easy. They didn't even need to use the Zords. Anyway. And then Alpha and Tommy are working on fixing something. And Alpha doesn't know what like a wrench is or like what glue is. So he gets like stuck to the glue and it's like, and Tommy's like, Alpha, you're too much. And I'm like, yes, he is too much. And then we cut to Zach and Jason sparring. The parade comes on. Kimberly's like, I didn't want to watch the parade. You guys are making me too sad. And then she sees her float in it. And they're like, Tommy fixed your float model and sent it in while you were crying. And so he gets major brownie points with Kimberly. Everyone's all happy. Then Bulk and Skull come in, and this was a nice touch. They got bandages all over them from the flowers. I was like, that is a fucking wonderful touch. And they start acting like dicks, and then Zach does a magic trick to pull out flowers, and they run away because they have PTSD from flowers. Good end of the episode. I thought that one was really good, especially after how the spider episode was kind of mishandled, I think. This one was a lot better. It is weird to see Tommy just fuck off for a majority of the episode every single time. Like, it's a little weird. It doesn't really make sense for the flow. But we'll see. Tommy becomes a major player later on. So, we'll be seeing plenty of Tommy Oliver. Stay tuned next time, guys. We're going to cover episodes 25 through 28. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell notifications. We've got plenty of podcasts coming this year. Going to be a lot of videos coming out, a lot of work to be done on my end. Also, don't forget to leave comments below. Tell me about what your first opinions were of the Green Ranger, of the Dragon Zord, how cool it is, Godzilla thoughts, all that business. That's what the comment sections are for, right? Let's have a conversation. I'd be willing to do that. I'd also like to thank everybody for supporting me on this journey I've been going through. It has been a blasty blast talking about Power Rangers for all this time, and I can't wait to continue down this road. Until next time, guys, I'm Mac Taylor. Stay safe and stay nerdy.